Okay, so I'm Anna Brown from Katie Budget Books. This is one of two events we have coming up in the next month that when I got the email saying that we were going to get to do it, I literally screamed at my desk. You guys, I am so excited. We have PC Cast and Scarlett St. Clair here this evening for the launch of A Game of Retribution, the second book in the Hades saga that just came out yesterday. I am going to do brief introductions of both of our authors, starting with PC Cast. She's a #1 New York Times and #1 USA Today bestselling author who has more than 20 million books in print in over 40 countries. She is a proud member of the Oklahoma Writers Hall of Fame and is the author of the wildly popular House of Night series, as well as many other YA fantasy and paranormal romance books, including her Goddess Summoning series, where she also did a Hades and Persephone retelling. PC splits her time between her beloved Tulsa, Oklahoma and the Pacific Northwest. And her next book coming out is Into the Mist, which I read an advanced copy of. Not the same thematically at all, but it is amazing. It's like feminist, post-apocalyptic. It's incredible. You should order a copy now. It's coming July 12th. So welcome,
also
PC.
Fun.
Yeah.
It's also fun. It's not it's like there's like
not depressing.
Right. I call it Wine, Women, and Weed. Okay, that's
I'm ready.
And then PC is going to be in conversation with Scarlett St. Clair, who is the best-selling author of the Hades x Persephone saga, the Hades saga, King of Battle and Blood, and When Stars Come Out. She has a master's degree in library science and information studies and a bachelor's in English writing. She is obsessed with Greek mythology, murder mysteries, and the afterlife. You can find pictures of her adorable dog Adelaide on her Instagram at author Scarlett St. Clair and updates on her books at scarlettstclair.com. So welcome, Scarlett. I'm so excited to have you ladies in conversation, and I am just going to back away slowly off the screen so you guys can chat.
Well,
not for backing away, but thank you for introducing us.
Introduction. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here with you, Scarlett. Yay.
I'm fangirling so hard.
Okay.
It's just amazing.
Yeah, why don't we start? I'll start. I pre-prepared some questions, and I think that they would also help you because it's kind of hard when someone is like, okay, start and just talk about your book for a while, and then we'll ask you some questions. And I'm always like, well, it's a book, and
yeah, and your emotions are so high over it anyway. You're like, well, let me tell you how I feel, not what the book is about.
Oh my God, people are reading it now.
Yeah.
Okay, stress. So, as we talked about before, I am new to I am a new and very dedicated Scarlett St. Clair fan. When I picked up, when I knew that we were going to be in conversation together, like I told you recently, I picked up A Game of Fate, thinking that it was the first book in a trilogy about Hades. And then I saw the Persephone books, but I thought it was probably a separate world. I didn't know what was going on. So about halfway through A Game of Fate, I was like, wait a second. I wonder. And so I went back and I read the directions on your website about the reading order. And so now I've done it correctly. Okay. But here's my question about it. I love this dual perspective. You're doing such a beautiful job with it. Was that your plan from the beginning to do the dual perspective, or is that something that evolved?
It was not my plan from the beginning. And so the cool thing about A Game of Fate is I knew that while I had written A Touch of Darkness, that Hades was doing things on the other side because he wasn't completely consumed about, winning Persephone over. So I had the thought in my head that he was probably doing the Sisyphus stuff. But it was my readers who wanted that point of view. And I let them choose when I finished Ruin and I was going to move on to Malice. And I let them vote if they wanted A Game of Fate or Malice, and they chose A Game of Fate. And so I wrote it in like 2 months, I think. And then, because Ruin came out in April, and then I had written Fate, I think, by September. And and the crazy part is I think people think I wrote them in tandem, or like that I wrote,
Yeah,
I did
about that. And well, you did it's so cool when I found this before, when our like subconscious writer's mind sets things up that you have no clue
Yeah.
if they're going to happen.
And it's so exciting because you're like,
so awesome, right? And
yeah.
it's so perfect because had I read the Persephone book first, I would have been like, I wonder what the hell Hades is up to. What is he doing? God, what is he doing? But then I read Fate first. And then my mind was like, I wonder what Persephone's perception of this is, though. And it was so beautifully woven together that you did such a fantastic job. It was great.
Thank you. Thank you.
That leads me to asking you about your world building. Girl, your world building is magnificent. Magnificent. Not just in these books, but in the Isode books too. Well, single one that I've read so far. But, but your world building is fantastic. It's so nuanced and there's so many layers to it. And it's absolutely believable, which we know as fantasy authors, that's the test is, can you make someone believe that gods are walking around, I don't know, the streets of Tulsa? Maybe.
Yeah. Like you did.
Right. Or right? Wherever. Right. And you have done that so well. Do you enjoy world building or is it like a chore? Oh, good. You enjoy it.
No, it's like, I'm sure. And I'm curious to hear your answer too, because I love maps. Like, so, okay, let's start from here.
Oh my God, me too.
It was so cool to watch you as, when because I started writing when I was 13. And it was so cool to watch someone from, I'm probably going to get like emotional. It was so cool to watch someone from my own state do things that I wanted to do so badly. And you did it so well. And so you wait for so long to sort of be told these things by people that you really like look up to. So it's just amazing to hear that because, when you put your book out into the world, it's like, you're going to hear both things. You're going to hear like your world building sucks or like you're really great at world building, right? And it's like, which one is it? But luckily I have a degree in English, so I know that none of that matters. But no, I love maps. Like when I was 13, I wrote this like horrible fantasy novel, this trilogy, and I had like a huge map for it and like family trees and like this whole like exposition on the history of the world. And I actually got to the point during this whole process of just becoming a writer where I thought I was a bad fantasy author because I had been like rejected so often. And so, and then even getting into like the Hades and Persephone world, I almost didn't feel like I was still yet a fantasy author. I was like, maybe I'm just a romance author. Then when I got to King of Battle and Blood, I was like, I get to do everything I love. So, I think you, as you know, like being a writer is such like an emotional roller coaster because you're like, you're never quite like, am I good enough yet? Have I made it?
Yeah.
So,
I still don't read reviews. I can't. Sometimes I'll look at them like through my fingers, like a horror movie. And then and then Kristen, my daughter and my writing partner in lots of books, she is like, why do you do that? Stop looking at
Listen to her.
Yeah, it's still just horrible. So when you are beginning a new book, a new world, the first book in a new world, are your first steps about world building or are you character developing first?
Character, because I don't know. And I also, again, I'm curious to hear what you say because I feel like they end up kind of telling you what their world is like. Yeah. And I think I always question with Isolde in particular, I remember just being like, how did you get here? Like, and Adrian, like what in the world happened to you to make you this angry, to make you this vengeful? And they will tell you. And I also love research too, just like
I do too.
Clearly like the Greek mythology is like one of my favorite things. And I got into this whole like spiral of vampiric mythology and like all these monsters that we see, like especially the closest thing right now is the Witcher, but like the Striga, those are all considered vampires. And I'd never really considered like the definition of what a vampire is across culture. I just loved learning about all of that. And so
I went down that dark hole at House of Night too.
Yeah.
When I was researching, because I wanted mine to be different than all the others.
And it was.
Yeah.
That's why I did so well.
So I had to do all that research, which I also find very fun. I love to research, and I also love to world build. That's one of the reasons my daughter and I partner so well together, even though she didn't do any of the writing on the House of Night. But in like our Sisters of Salem, we do 50-50 writing. We've done other books, and we're working on we're plotting a new duology right now that we'll do 50-50 writing on. But I love the world building part, and like the one that we're plotting the two that we're plotting right now, where we came up with a whole new kind of magic, and the outline hasn't been approved yet by our editor, so I can't even tell you what it is. Because they bought it and then they said,
not on camera, wink.
Not on camera, off camera, wink, wink, right? But we had to do all this world building for it. And Kristen and I plot very tightly when we write together. We outline very tightly. And I kept having to stop her and say, no, we can't go on and plot these chapters yet because we don't have enough world building done. And she'd be like, oh my God.
That's so frustrating. I want to get it done.
It's so fun. That's why. And so is research. And she's like, no.
I love that you guys, but that's such a great partner to have, I think, like two halves of a whole, really, and I'm interested. So when you outline, like so do you just like start with your outline before you start any kind of writing, or like how is that process?
When I'm writing with Kristen, we brainstorm first about just the general plot, world, that kind of stuff. And then when we have decided on a particular world and a plot and all those elements, only then do we sit down and, oh my God, I hate this part so fucking much. When we write together, we have to outline chapter by chapter. And I just loathe it. It's so hard. It takes so long. Kristen is super good at it though. So we're really good when we work together on that. And we literally outline those books chapter by chapter. We even put dialogue in the outline, and we write on each one what day it is,
my gosh,
whose character it is. We keep track of days.
That's amazing, because I don't, and they get me in copy editing.
Bite you in your ass when you're 3/4 the way done with the second book, and you're like, oh my God, what day is it?
And then sometimes I get to the end of it and I'm like, did I really just make all of this happen in a week?
So do you outline before you start writing?
So I kind of, I usually hear character voices really strongly, and so they'll tell me certain scenes, and then once I just kind of run out of fuel for those scenes that are the loudest, I take those and put them in chronological order, and then I outline around them.
So do you write
and
them?
I don't.
Do you write them first, to write the scenes first, or just do outline-ish? You write them?
Yeah, because they're so loud. Like, so my favorites in KBB I can reference, because Retribution's actually the book that I didn't do that with, because I really had no fucking clue what was going to go on in that book. I just had to start writing it. It was a clusterfuck. But for KBB, there were some very distinct scenes. And the very first scene that I heard with them was Isolde saying, like, basically, why do you want to marry me? Like, you can't have children. You can't have an heir. You don't need an heir. And he said, do you wish to be a breeding mare? And I was like, I love these two. They hate each other.
I love that scene. Yes.
Yeah, that was the very first scene that I saw between them. And I was like, okay, I got to write you. And I got a lot of hate for writing KBB because people wanted me to continue with the Hades and Persephone series. But I really needed a break. That is a heavy series. Yeah. So yeah,
that book is fantastic. I love that book. I love those characters in that world. I can't wait for the next one.
I cannot wait to have it finished.
If y'all haven't read those, they are, it is so good.
I think the first chapter is Pam might need to pop in and let me know, but I think the first chapter of QMM is available for people to read. Which Starts with impalement, which is my favorite thing to say about it. I love the horror. I love anytime, like, I don't like deep horror, like very gory horror, but I love the horror elements that you can kind of like, that I can fold into that world. And it's on a kind of
are freaking terrifying. Okay. That nasty blood mist.
Oh yeah. Well, I needed something. I remember being like, you need a thing that's kind of magic that is terrifying. And so for a long time we called it, I think we called it blood mist at first. We had to change it to crimson mist. There's too much blood things. It's okay. It was blood mist to begin with. And I liked that better, but we had to change it because of words.
Yes.
I love that book so much. I do love Retribution. I have a love-hate relationship with it because I had to revisit grief. And you may or may not know, but I lost my dad to COVID in November of 2020. And I had written Ruin earlier in that April. And it deals with loss. And I thought, I think it helped me let my dad go because I had to make the decision to take him off the vent. And I was like, I do not want to revisit this. And I had to write it a year after he died. And you never understand, like, you don't know how the grief is going to affect you until you get there. And then I was like, I don't want to do this. And I fought it so hard. I had to write like 60K in, I think 3 weeks.
Yeah. You dealt with that was one of the topics I was going to talk with you about is Lexi's her accident. Mm-hmm. And then as an author who has reluctantly slaughtered several beloved characters,
yep.
I know how difficult
we all know what you're talking about.
I know how difficult it is. And did you plan? Did you know what Persephone was going to do and what the outcome was going to be before you wrote it? You did.
Yes, because I've always had this belief that if you tamper with fate or you tamper with, because I have this belief that on a soul level, a soul knows when it's ready to leave. That's how I knew, I don't know where I picked up this belief system, but I have this idea that we know when we're ready to leave, even if outwardly it doesn't seem like that, or, in certain situations, it's like, I just think we all have an exit point. And if we tamper with that, the outcome is bad. So I can give you an example from my life and a friend's life. So with my dad dying from COVID, I knew if he was to survive this, he would be so miserable because he wasn't going to get to go home. He was going to have to go to an inpatient facility and live, and he would have hated that. He wouldn't have been able to sit up on his own. He would have had to have help. He would have been absolutely miserable. So no matter how much I wanted to keep him alive, it was going to be detrimental to him in the long run. And what good was that for me in the end? And my friend, the same thing happened with her grandmother. She believes that her grandmother stayed on this earth longer than she wanted to. And the impact is that she, by the end of her life, was so just mentally deteriorated that she did not have any quality of life. And she believes that her grandmother stayed because she wasn't ready to let her go. And I think on a subconscious level, we do that, for our loved ones. So when it came to Lexa and the lengths that people would go to save someone they love, those are real life, without the magic, that's still a real life thing that people do.
Yes.
And the consequences and the thing you have to live with for the rest of your life, the guilt, the regret, is a real thing. And people hated me. They hated Ruin. They were pissed at Persephone. They were like, this is stupid. She's stupid. And I wanted to be like, I'm glad that you haven't been through it, but it is a real thing that people have gone through. So yeah, I knew, and I knew it was going to be hard.
It made a lot of sense to me. Persephone, Persephone's actions made a lot of sense to me because of her youth, especially, and that she was just starting to come into her powers. And I could imagine how helpless she must have felt. She's a fucking goddess, okay? Why can't she save her best friend? Just
exactly.
Like Jason.
Exactly.
Is Lex's boyfriend's Jason, right?
Yes.
Is that the name? Yes. Just like Jason was hateful, and he got pissed at her and was like, fucking save her, okay?
Well, exactly. And then she is also, so, and if when I was her age, Persephone's 24, I wouldn't have been able to let my dad go. And it's all about the person in your life that has essentially protected you. Lex is the person who protected her. Lex is the person who like essentially saved her from her old life. And everyone's like, well, she has Hades. And I'm like, you guys have to realize like that's a young relationship and she's not willing to bet all of her cards on that relationship. You know, like, and
she shouldn't.
No, exactly. No. I'm like, no. Like,
no way. No, it made complete sense to me how that was going on. And plus then you have Hades, who's not giving her all the information because he's trying to save her from some kind of grief or something. And I'm like, but you know what? I don't know if it would have actually done any good if he had said her, because when you put I don't, you and I might actually be the same person because we probably have the same kind of relationship with our dads. And my dad is alive and well in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. Well, got his booster. So yep. And but he would have also, I know what choice he would have wanted me to make. He would want me to make for him in that same situation. Yeah. But her youth, she's so young, and then Lexa was like, God, her mother.
Demeter is very much
okay. She is just the worst.
She is.
She's finally got free of her, and so her person, Lexa was her person. And so I think I found it very believable. I'm very interested now. I want to hear Hades' point of view of that too, because that's always really interesting, right? Yeah. Right now he's making the major mistake with Loose, right? That's the nymph's name.
Loose. Yeah.
Mouth shut instead of letting his girlfriend know, oh, by the way, I'm going to be upfront about this and tell you. I'm like, Hades, he should have called Hecate and said, what should I do about this? And then actually listen to her advice, okay?
They both suffer from the same thing. Like they kind of make the same decisions. And that's what's so frustrating when you hear feedback about like Persephone, who's trying really hard to maintain like her own power and her own individuality. She's not trying to be like, when Hades says you're a goddess, she wants to be like, you keep telling me that, but I need to see it for myself. I need to decide what that looks like for me. But they make the same mistakes, but she's chastised for it, and Hades is put upon this pillar. And it's just interesting to me because I'm not writing characters for people to like, like worship. I'm writing real people, I think, who go through real shit. And it's a way for me to process my own trauma. And I argue all the time, like, communication is not a trope. Communication breakdown is like a legitimate thing that people are not taught, and we have to learn even as adults to have conversations and be brave enough to talk about what really hurts us. And it's not easy, no matter how old you are.
No. So, and it makes sense that Hades has never had a real relationship.
No.
And he's never been in love. People are afraid of him. And he, of course, then you see that, you understand that he just has, I don't give a shit, kind of reaction to it as his defense. He's like, I don't care what people say about me. Yes, you will honestly do, or else you would not. But he does, or you would not be like hiding from the media all the time. Okay. Yeah. You just be out there living your best life, Hades, but that's not it.
He wouldn't change the underworld. He wouldn't do all the charity work. He wouldn't, if he really cared,
right? If he really didn't care. So he does, he just doesn't have the emotional maturity, which makes sense because of his past. But I really like, I don't usually like alpha males. I don't like reading them.
You got two. You got Adrian and Hades.
I know both of them. And you know what? I like both of them. Okay. And I was very shocked about that. What do you think the trick is to making your readers really feel squishy and warm about these alpha males that sometimes I just ew, get away from me. But I never feel like that. I understand. What is your trick? What do you think it is?
I don't know, because I do often say, I joke with people about, they're like, do you think that someone like Hades really exists? And I'm like, you mean an alcoholic with communication issues? Yeah. But I think the part that it's that people, especially my readers, they like the way that the relationship dynamic makes them feel. And when they ask if someone like Hades really exists, what they're saying is there someone that makes me feel like this when I read this book? And potentially that's it. I also like to give them, I think sometimes when people do alpha males, they're like super assholes to the females, and they I don't know, they just kind of have like a really weird, like an uncomfortable dynamic in that realm. Yeah. But I like when mine are very defending, they really defend women's rights and try to empower in the best way they know how. Now, I will say that Hades is very controlling, and that's part of his nature that I think he's learning to let go of. And that's an element I don't like. Like, it's not, I told someone the other day, it's like, it's not like we give our characters things that we just don't make a character we're completely in love with. We give them things we really dislike about them too. And we hope that they learn over their character arc. But yeah, I actually don't know. I think I just kind of fold in things that I would like to see more of from men in our society. Which, looks like defending women, letting them speak, standing up for their rights.
I think that one of the very attractive things about Hades is his ability to learn and grow.
Yeah.
I mean, he is like the whole Halcyon Project and all of that he does in response to Persephone's hateful, accidentally published piece on him in the newspaper.
Yeah.
And
she was scathing.
It was, well, that was Apollo. No, not Apollo. Adonis's fault right there.
It was because she was like, I would not, and people forget that too. But she was not going to press publish on that. And, no, she wasn't. He stole it.
She had also even revised it, and it really pissed me off as an author. I was like, you asshole, you published a first draft of hers?
He was just so terrible. But horrible. You have to play upon that myth, because Adonis is in mythology, he is someone that Persephone actually falls in love with. It's very hard for people people also tend to ignore from mythology that Hades actually cheated on Persephone too. There's a meme floating around that it's like, Hades never cheated on his wife. And I'm like, actually, he did. But yeah, some of those things were outside of her control. And once again, she is very young. And I think if anyone has ever had a controlling mother, Demeter is a narcissist. Yeah, same. Everyone's like, how did you get the inspiration to write Demeter? And I was like, she's my mom.
Yep.
You would have to work through all these. I was raised very sheltered in Oklahoma, in rural Oklahoma. I'm from Eufaula.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so very small, and
beautiful town.
Like, huh?
It's a beautiful town. Beautiful
area.
It
is. Lake Town, but very sheltered, and very rigid belief systems that my parents had. And it wasn't until I went to college that I decided that I don't think I have to think this way. But you have to put distance between yourself and that kind of town mentality, so how you want to think. And that's what Persephone's doing. All she was doing is adapting the beliefs of her mother and what the world thought about Hades. And then when she finally got to know him, she's like, this is different. And she's very angry at him for not trying to prove anyone wrong.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I really like, though, too, that she is willing, like Hades, she's willing to learn and grow. Although it's good. Well, early 20s.
She would be a Taurus. she would be a Taurus if she,
I'm a Taurus. My God,
I am too. I am too, though.
When's your birthday?
April 23rd.
April 30th. Huh?
What?
What?
The same person. Yeah, I know. Like, I know she's so stubborn, and I think when you grow up in a traumatic environment and you get these ideas in your head, like, she's really determined because she can't be a goddess. She's going to be a journalist, and she's going to be good at it. She's going to be the best. And if people get in your way, you get mad because you have that one goal and you are going to see it through because, you know, whatever is happening, like, I've been told no a lot. So every time someone tells me I can't do something, I'm like, watch me. And that's Persephone. And she sees Hades as sort of this obstacle that's going to come in and sort of change the life that she imagined for herself. I think a little bit of that comes from, my dad was always like, you know, don't get married until you're financially stable. Men are stupid, that kind of thing. You know, he was always just like very mistrusting. And I was like, and I think Persephone has an element of that because of how Demeter, you know, and Demeter has a good reason to mistrust men, of course, because all goddesses have a huge reason to mistrust gods. So, you know, it's just trying to, you always hope that you can convey enough of their motivations. Like, I always hope people can step into their shoes. But what I find is that some people can't step into a character's environment or their shoes and experience the world from their point of view. They experience my world from their point of view, the reader point of view. And there's nothing I can do about that, but I will die on the hill of Persephone being strong and making the right decisions. And I do not believe that she could have become queen of the underworld without having lost Lexa, because how do you rule a world you don't understand the consequences of?
And speaking of Lexa, might we, now remember, I haven't read the third book yet.
Okay.
I'm kind of hoping that she and Thanatos might something.
I love them.
Okay, that's all. That's just it. In case other people have read in the correct order too. But I was just like, ooh, maybe, yeah.
I love them.
Some books and characters are easier to write than others. Do you have a character in the Persephone Hades books who feels like coming home for you to write, who's like one of those characters that just like gives you all their words and you're like, yes, you're in this scene again. I'm so glad because I'm going to know exactly what I'm, you know, that kind of thing. Is there one character that's easier than the others for you? Or maybe that you get the flow of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's going to be a boring answer because it's probably Persephone. I think she's a version of me. Like, she's sort of the character I use, like a vessel that I use, just come into my own power. That's also why I'm very like protective of her. But the character that I just like, the two characters that I absolutely like have the most fun writing are Hecate and Hermes. And especially through Retribution, I looked so forward to the exchanges that they would have with anyone in the book because they are so funny and they're the only people who can call Hades out on his bullshit, and I love
both of them. I do. I love both of them. I love, like, when Hermes is like, dude, you didn't have to throw me halfway across the underworld.
Yeah,
God, chill out. My God.
I always worry about trying to channel how they're going to sound because I'm worried that they're very, I try not to make them be too similar because they're both comic relief characters. Hecate is a little more serious than Hermes, of course.
She will fuck you up, okay?
Yeah, she's crazy.
I know her very well. She will fuck you up, all right? So
she has, yeah, I love her character.
I love her too.
The polecat scene was like a later addition because I read a myth about the polecat Gale, the witch, that she was like, you're stupid, and turned her into a polecat. And I was like, I've got to put that in this book because it's hilarious. And people will ask all the time, like, where do you get their personalities from? I'm like, if you read Greek mythology, their personalities are rampant.
Right there.
Yeah,
That's right.
You can just see it.
So
like
there.
Yeah, it's so easy. And that's kind of how I knew Hecate is like, she's funny but no bullshit. She will she will curse your ass.
She will curse your ass in a heartbeat and change you into something horrible. It's just, what did she just change? She just changed those men into, what did she do?
Topiary.
Yeah, they were topiary.
Yeah. She was like,
came out from his meeting thing and he was like, what the? And she's like, oh, you're happy, you're like this, don't worry about it.
They didn't like cats.
They didn't like cats, right?
She was like,
and when she said that they didn't like cats, I was like, oh, good. Yeah, that's what they
that's what they deserve.
It's fun. I read that you are a fan of vision boards. And
I am.
My God, I have been doing
vision
boards for, oh my God, hell yes. Since I was a teacher trying to struggle through, because I taught, it wasn't until I had 18 books published that I was able to stop teaching. And
did you teach at NSU?
No, I taught the high school level, South Intermediate in Broken Arrow, but then I also taught TCC for a while.
Oh,
that's Tulsa Community College for you non-cookies. So,
I'm like, yeah, I know.
like, oh yeah. And as you know,
I thought you taught at the college level.
I did for a while, yeah.
And I think by the time, I don't remember. Anyways, I worked for the library too, and that's when I was like, is that when you taught it in college? So taught college.
I was being an adjunct at TCC, but because I prefer teaching high school because I prefer teenagers. So
I love teen volunteers at the library. They're my favorite.
Yes, they are.
And I have a strong belief that people are always debating whether or not teens like should be introduced to certain type of books and blah, blah, blah. But I have a strong belief system that teens understand when they're reading something that they don't understand and they skip it and they just won't process it. I've talked to so many teens. I'm like, when have you read a book that you were like, whoa? And they were like, yeah, I mean, I've read a couple, but I just like, if I skip to something, I'm like, what is this? I just go on. They don't make a big deal about it like their parents do.
Right. And perhaps it could be an avenue of communication between teens and parents. If they would agree, if they have the kind of relationship where they can say, hey, would you read this? Because I don't understand at all what just happened there. Oh, okay. Yeah, we can talk about this, that kind of thing. But okay, so I was doing vision boards way back.
Oh my God.
Way forever.
I love vision boards.
Yeah. Before The Secret and all that kind of stuff, I had vision boards. So do you have a current vision board right now?
Yes.
And would you share with us, because I know they're very personal. I know I have two downstairs. My office is downstairs. I have two right now. Would you share with us something that's on your vision board?
So I've shifted to a vision bullet journal, and just because if I go someplace, like I didn't bring it, I wish I brought it with me on this trip, but I like it to be mobile sometimes so I can look back and read my affirmations. But I have different pages for everything. So I have one for a TV series. I have one for each book, and I have like all because I'm not a New York Times bestseller yet. So I have like each book has like, New York Times bestseller and USA Today bestseller.
Okay, you will be.
Soon. And then just, I have, gosh, I'm trying to remember, but a lot of things have come true. Like I remember, so literally I have a whole vision board that all came true. So one of my things, and it's always weird to talk about income, but one of mine said, I will be the first millionaire in my family. And I did that. Yeah. And then I had like #1 new release on Malice and KBB in like on Amazon, and like those all happened. And I went recently, I had like a London trip and an Ireland trip on there, and I just went to it. Yeah, so a lot of things on my vision board have come true. And I think even if you don't believe in manifesting, and I hardcore believe in manifesting, vision boards are just a really cool way to like see your goals, you know?
Also
it's
to
just
focus
a
on,
different avenue.
like those of you who have never done vision boards, and like we're saying, whether you believe in manifesting or not, it's a great way to focus what you really want.
So I'll tell you my most recent one that I absolutely loved. So for a long time, Retribution couldn't really break over 5,000 pre-orders. And I was like, gotta get over 5,000. So I made a goal, I listed, and this is actually for all my books. I have pre-order numbers for each book. And so I said, I want 8,000 pre-orders for A Game of Retribution. And so I just like looked at that every day. And when I hit 8,000, I was like 9,000. Yeah. And then I hit 9,000, and then I was like, I told my bonus mom, and she said 92,000 or 9,200. Sorry, I keep saying thousand. Sorry, 9,200. And then so she said do 9,200, and I said 95, and I hit like I was 16 away from 9,500. Hey. So I was like, damn it. But anyway, so yeah, so that is a way that I was like, I kind of was like, okay, we got to do something about these pre-order numbers. And it is just a way to focus your brain so you can just like get down to business. And when I decided that, I went into a meeting and I was like with my team, and I was like, we have to do this. Like, I am not satisfied with these pre-order numbers. I want to get to this point. So yeah, so I have that for every book, and I have weekly what I want my weekly sales to be as well. So I get kind of weird about it, but no, I love that you do that too.
Yeah, I do. I have an entire vision board that I did before I was a bestseller, that every element on that board came true. Every element, even a mistake I put on there, I had cut out, I thought I cut out the New York Times bestseller list out of this was like prior to 2008. So I went to Barnes and Noble. No, Borders on 21st Street.
Oh my gosh, Borders!
Borders on 21st Street in Midtown, Tulsa. And I bought I thought I bought the Times. I thought I had the Times, but I bought more than one newspaper. And I came home and I was getting the vision board all done. I had all my like glue and my scissors, and I was doing all this stuff. And I cut it out, and I thought I had cut it out and then put paste on the back and pasted it on there. And then I looked at it and I realized I had cut out the USA Today bestseller list.
That's a good one.
Yeah. And of course that in case you guys don't know, the Times list is awesome to hit #1 on, but there are different categories on the Times list. And also they weight things in different ways. And so some of the Times list is kind of political to get on, and kind of dumb luck too, I think, and that kind of thing. But USA Today bestseller list is literally how many books are sold and who's at the top of all the books just mushed together. So I thought I had the New York Times list on there, and instead I had the USA Today bestseller list. And I remember going back, and it was already sticking on the board, and I was like, oh crap, I'll just write. And so I took a marker, and I wrote NYT #1, like there, kind of next to the USA Today. And I've been #1 on USA Today bestseller list 5 times.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's also New York Times, but so in other words, it's harder to be a USA Today bestseller than it is to be a New York Times bestseller. It's different too.
It's but definitely politics on NYT.
Yes. Yeah. It's everything, every single thing on that vision board came true. And when everything came on it came true, I was like, ooh, time to get a new board.
Exactly. That's the thing. I think what people don't realize is when you do vision boards, it's a constant thing. You're always doing a new vision board.
Yeah.
And so many things have come true. It's so cool. But I definitely believe you can change anything with affirmations, manifesting, that kind of thing. Now, I don't believe in, there's kind of like spiritual manipulation,
Yeah.
or people are like, you can't be negative about this stuff. And I'm like, I can be negative about whatever I want if it's affecting me personally, you know. So I don't get into that thing. But like, if I'm down about something, I'm always like, you can just focus on changing it. What's your affirmation? How are you going to choose to look at this? So like when A Game of Retribution went in stores early, I was like, this is going to benefit you in the long run. So I kept telling myself, I was like, this is going to be something positive in the long run. So just deal with it.
Because for the audience, our books, when you're trying to hit a big list like New York Times, you need your books to be embargoed, to be held, so that they all go out the same week, so you can get all the sales in 1 week, so you have enough numbers to get you on that list. If they trickle out, it's way more difficult to make that list.
We'll see what happens.
That's the thing. But
I don't have any expectations for NYT. I think USA Today, you know, that's a great list. I'm happy to be on that one. But whatever happens, it's chill. I definitely think QMM is going to be insane.
I can't, I can't wait for you. It's going to be just awesome. I wanted to ask you, because I'm sure people are curious about this. Do you have any writing rituals? Where do you prefer to write? And do you write daily?
I don't write daily. I wish I did. Do you write daily?
I go in big spurts, and it depends on where I am in a book.
Yeah, same. So my writing rituals actually become, if I can get a good week, a retreat in for a good week, then I can hardcore focus. It's hard for me to focus in my house unless I'm editing. If I'm in the editing phase, easy. But when I'm crafting a story, I don't know what it is. I have to isolate. I will talk to no one, like we were talking about earlier. And it's helpful if I'm not in my house. And I don't know why. I thought when I became a full-time author, it would be easier to structure my time. It was harder. I don't know if you found that out.
I found that too.
Like,
yeah, I thought that too. When I quit teaching, I thought, ooh, I'm gonna like
all this time.
No, that does not happen. No, because then you have life, and life just
and I fuck around, and all my friends think I have all this like free time to do their shit. And I'm like, no, I don't.
I've been doing this for 22 years or so, and my friends all still think that after all this time, it's like, if I was living in Oklahoma right now, there'd be a knock on my door probably right now, and they'd be like, are y'all in there?
Is that what you had to do to escape it? Move?
Yes, kind of. That and moving away from 105 degrees too and the red state politics that I cannot tolerate. That's all part of that. But no, it's very difficult to balance your time. So do you go to like a coffee shop or something and write?
No, I actually just rent an Airbnb and I'll go like hide there. I don't know what it is, but when I'm in an unfamiliar environment, I can focus. It's because I'm not trying to fix things every time, every 5 seconds. Also, my friends aren't trying to pop into my house because they all have the door code and they just come whenever they want.
You're working from home. It's okay.
I know. And they think, oh, it's okay. I can come over to your house and we can, I won't bother you. And I'm like, you're lying. I know you're lying. And then if I'm in a particular like crunch time, my editor is so wonderful. I'll go to Chicago and just like hang out in her she shed and write for like a week, which is what I did with Retribution. So
come to Portland.
Yeah. I mean, I've never been, so that'd be fantastic.
Come on, that's right.
You're like, come to
I
me.
see that you only have like 4 minutes left.
I'm sad.
Me too.
Yes, when we do have a question from the audience that I'd like to make sure we get asked. Coral asks if it's hard to write from a man's point of view for the Hades saga.
Coral, is this my Coral? Okay, I have a Coral. Yes,
it's Coral Garcia. Is that your Coral?
That's my Coral. Yes, she's on my sweet team. Love you, Coral.
I was like, I have like several corals, and I'm like,
I'll share her with you. She's fantastic.
Okay. It is so hard to write from a man's point of view, but in particular sex scenes, because I'm not a man, obviously, and they think about sex differently. So trying to write sex scenes, I'm like, this has to be different. There's no way that so that was really difficult, and I had to do some embarrassing questioning and research, and I was like, because I really wanted to be realistic, and I have a lot of male readers, and they love my books, so that I must be doing something right. But also, Hades is broody, and I was so irritated by how annoyingly depressing he was in A Game of Retribution, and I remember just being, why are you like this? As if I didn't create this. But I also feel like you pull from Greek mythology in a lot of ways, and he always seemed so, everything was dire and annoying to him, and like the world was a huge inconvenience in some ways. And so yeah, it's a little difficult to do that.
I have had to call an ex-lover before and ask him to take me through. I was like, okay, I want you here step by step. I want you to pretend like you're masturbating, and I want to step by step. You need to tell me what's going on going on in your mind and your body. And he was like, oh God, let me close the door. Okay.
Yeah. I love this, because I'm not the only one.
We don't know. I mean, we're not from a guy's point of view. Yeah.
No. It's so different. And so
you're inside Hades' head, and it's like,
I'm like, what does it feel like when you orgasm? Because I have no fucking clue. Like, tell me everything.
Yes. So just tell me everything. Describe everything. And have you had to ask more than one test subject?
Yeah. Well, and especially with so I'm going to write Apollo and Hyacinth novella, like in ancient Greece, and I was like, I don't know what it's like to have gay sex, so what's that like? And so I've asked a few friends to tell me, because I think that it's done wrong in some books, and I'm like, so I don't trust a book, so I asked, tell me what it's like, and give me book recommendations where they do it right.
Yes. Ooh, that's going to be a great story.
Yeah. I've already written, it's one of those things where like certain scenes stand out more than others. Mm-hmm. And I've already written those scenes, and it's going to suck. What I'm waiting for, though, are the people who don't know the myth, and they get pissed off at me for how it is. So, well,
inevitable. Yes. Oh my gosh, this was so much fun, Scarlett.
I know.
So much fun. I
love you.
I love you too. Yay. Come to Portland.
I will. I definitely will. It sounds way better than Oklahoma.
And I do love me my Tulsa, though. And we should write a book.
It's the heat.
It's the heat. We should write a book together someday, girl.
I'm totally up for that, because I feel like it would be amazing.
I'd like to be credited in the acknowledgements as it. Like, I brought you two together. I'd like just a little bit of acknowledgement for that.
Katie Budget Books too, because also I love that it's like giant KBB behind you, which is like King of Battle and Blood. I'm like, my namesake. No.
Thank you, ladies, so much. Attendees, we do still have copies of all of Scarlett's books in store, and a variety of PCs, including Goddess of Spring, which is her Persephone retelling. So stop on by or order them online. We've got them in stock to ship out. Thank you, ladies, so much. Thank you, attendees, for coming. I'm so grateful. COVID's been weird for everybody, and the transition to virtual for events has been very strange, but I am always grateful that it makes us able to put together authors like this that we can't always get together, who are such perfect fits that maybe we couldn't have in store in person.
This was amazing. I feel like we needed like 4 hours.
And you can pass my email on to Scarlett, K.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah. All right. Thank you, ladies. Everybody have a good night.
It was so much fun.
It was so fun. Good night, y'all.
Good night.